Hello and welcome to another live edition of Wrestling with Johners, episode 191. Can you believe it? But today we're going to be talking about last night's NXT Takeover in your house 2021. And I've got a fantastic panel of guests to join me today, two of which are new to the podcast, new to the Wrestling with Johners podcast, but I'm sure we'll have them many more times on this show after today. But first of all, an old familiar face rejoining us, Griz from the Turning Heel podcast and Turnbuckle Arms. Griz, nice to have you back again, my friend.
Thank you for having me once again.
You're very welcome. And from the Such Good Shoot podcast, one of the newest podcasts to join the Johners podcasting network, I've got Isaac. So how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. This will either be the first time of many or the last time you ever want me on your show. So let's see what happens.
The first of many, I'm sure. And Dennis, DDJ from What Do You Say with DDJ. Like I say, we've got to know each other fairly well over Messenger, but not spoke or seen each other face to face. Great to finally be speaking to you, my friend. How are you?
Likewise, and to kind of piggyback off what Isaac said, yeah, I can echo what he said. It's either going to be the first of many, or you may want nothing to do with him after this. So,
yeah.
Love you, Isaac.
What up, brother? Good to see you, man.
But guys,
John has let me back on the show before after that one time where I went absolutely off the rails during an AEW review, and he's continued to ask me back. So I think you guys will be all right.
All right.
I like a nice bit of shenanigans. I like it when it goes off the rails sometimes. It adds to the fun. And speaking of fun, last night's NXT Takeover in your house was a lot of fun. I think going into it personally, I had reasonably low expectations. I was saying to Griz just off air that on paper, the card wasn't that exciting. There were one or two matches that I was intrigued about, but I look forward to getting into what happened, what unfolded with all of the matches last night and all of the other stuff. The main event was quality. Can't wait to talk about that match in particular. And of course, what happened at the very end of last night's Takeover has got a lot of people's tongues wagging at the moment. And we'll definitely break that down and give our thoughts on all of that. But first of all, Isaac, we've not had you on the show before. One of the newest members of Such Good Shoot. Tell us about Such Good Shoot podcast, because I know it's not just a solo podcast, is it? Tell us about the podcast, your co-hosts, and where we can find you, my friend.
Oh, man, I should probably be nice to them because they might actually watch this. Such Good Shoot started a little over a year ago. We're about 55 episodes in, and we're really just three friends who just like wrestling and like getting drunk and smoking a little bit of weed and talking about wrestling. And so that's what we do. And exactly. So we try and review a lot of older shows because it's just hard to keep up on all the new product, and so it's just a lot of old pay-per-views, a lot of old NXTs, and then we've been doing a lot of interviews. We've been getting guys like Godfather, and we just did Duke Droese. We had Vince Russo, and we got a few other good ones coming up that I'm really excited about that we've got booked. So, yeah.
You're getting some good names on that show, and I loved your Vince Russo awesome. Interview. Really, really good. I need to catch up one or two more, but you're really producing the goods over there, my friend.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yes, suchgoodshoot.com, man. You can find links to everything there.
And of course, over on the Johners Podcasting Network, wrestlingwithjohners.com, of course. Let's not forget that. But Dennis, what do you say with DDJ? Like I say, we've become quite good friends over the last few weeks, and you actually introduced us to Isaac in the first place, so thank you very much for that. But tell us a bit about your podcast, how long it's been going, what sort of things you do on it, and where we can find your show, my friend.
Sure. Before I do that, though, Isaac, you forgot to mention one very important thing about your show.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, I'm a part of it on occasion too.
It's true. It's true. DDJ is a special guest correspondent, man. We got a couple of really good guest correspondents that come and go, and DDJ is definitely. We call him the Wrestling Rain Man because you start asking him questions, his eyes go blank, he stares off into space, and he just starts fucking shooting out information. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Over to you, Dennis. Over to you, DDJ.
All right. So much like what Isaac said about Such Good Shoot, I started my podcast just about a year ago. I just dropped I believe it was my 45th episode earlier this morning, and stuff. So I'm coming close up on a year and stuff. And it basically, it's I do a lot of interviews with a lot of independent talent in the Chicagoland area or those associated with the business. I've had a few, big name talents on there. I've had Tim Storm on my show. I just recently had Alan Funk, who was better known as Kwee-Wee, and I've got another former WCW star coming up next week and that. But yeah, it's just a lot of times it's just conversations about with independent talent from the Chicagoland area, sometimes a little bit further out, just kind of giving a chance to some of those that may not have a way to tell their story or to get themselves over. I like to think my show provides them that opportunity to do that. You can find my show on most major podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Google. I also have videos of all my episodes on my official What Do You Say with DDJ YouTube page. And the best place to go to get all things What Do You Say with DDJ is at wrestlingwithjohners.com. So look it up right there. And find my show and links to every episode.
Didn't need any prompting, no reminding.
Yeah,
no
you didn't fuck that one up like I did.
Isaac, how long have you known me? How good am I with cheap pops and plugs?
That's
and stuff?
literally
100%.
like yeah, that's your sweet spot, man. You know how to promote.
Speaking of cheap pops and plugs and stuff like that, you can also find links to my Teespring store where you can get your official What Do You Say with DDJ merchandise on my Wrestling with Johners.
Awesome. And we'll give you a chance at the very end of the show to kind of drop your links one more time. But Griz, I don't want to forget about you. You're a valued member of the Johners Podcasting Network, long-time friend. We've done many of these before. Tell us a bit about your creative outlet, your podcasts, and because they're long, aren't they? They're long old shows. But where can we find them?
Well, you're looking for the Turning Heel podcast over the airwaves and Under the Influence. Recently, we have been... Yeah. Oh, when I came up with that tagline, I was proud as punch, which is another alcoholic beverage. So, yeah, like more so recently, we have been trying to kind of struggle a little bit to try and get episodes together. Like, I feel like this new Wrestling Week has kind of messed us up slightly because we really had something going. And with Impact moving to Thursdays, it's a bit all over the place. And then some life gets in the way. But as soon as we can get like everything back on a progressive path again, we'll be back properly. But that's sometimes why some of the episodes recently, I think our last episode, we done a brief coverage of Double or Nothing. And that brief coverage was about 2 hours, 5 minutes. Then we had to talk about the week in television. So I think the episode topped out around 4.5 hours.
Wow.
Which was about 6 hours recording time.
Yeah, it's about 4 hours and 28 minutes longer than I can have sex usually. So that's a long time to podcast.
That's a long old time, and probably more information than we needed. To be honest with you, there, Isaac. But we'll brush over that, my friend.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, I can. It's really, you don't want to know though. It's embarrassing. Okay.
Let's move on. Let's talk about wrestling. That's another podcast. That's another podcast for another day. But we for anybody watching live at home on YouTube, on Twitch, or on across Facebook, we want your comments. We want your thoughts on last night's show, NXT Takeover in your house. If you had any particular highlights or lowlights, favourite matches, favourite moments, or things you just did not like, let us know. Get in touch. We'll be happy to answer your questions and discuss your comments live on air. So please get in touch. So let's set the scene, shall we? Because what I like about In Your House, it's kind of a step down memory lane for me. I started watching in the late 80s and early 90s because I am that old. But certainly whenever you see the In Your House logo, the In Your House music, Todd Pettengill, it's like a trip down memory lane for me. 25 years ago. And don't forget Doc Hendricks, he was there as well. But really cool opening to In Your House. And then we're introduced to the announcers, of course. But the opening match, guys, let's talk about that because I thought it was a fairly fun and quite a hot opener, to be honest with you. And an interesting stipulation, MSK and Bronson Reed versus Legado Del Fantasma, if I've got that right. And winner takes it all stipulation for the North American Championship and the NXT Tag Team titles. So I'll just run through some of the highlights and then we can discuss. But Bronson Reed, got to say, 100% impressed with that guy. Over the last few months, they've really built him into this big, agile monster, and he certainly dominated his opponents early on here. They really made Bronson, look like a dominant monster during the whole of this match, to be honest with you. Some awesome and punishing offense from the big man. There was a great sequence where everybody hit their big dives through the ropes. That included an awesome dive from the big man, from the big 400-pound Reed, of course, which is always an impressive sight. We saw a fantastic double Samoan drop from Reed before he got dropped himself, with quite an impressive Michinoku driver from Santos Escobar to get a guy up that's that big and hit him with that move. Take my hat off to Mr. Escobar there. That was a move of the match for me. The end of the match came, however, when Reed hit a running splash into Escobar, sending him crashing through the plexiglass barrier ringside. MSK hit their double team finisher on Mendoza. Reed then hit his trademark tsunami splash from the top rope. 1, 2, 3, got the win, and Bronson Reed and MSK managed to retain all the gold. So I thought Bronson Reed was fantastic in this match. He really, really shone. They're pushing him to the moon at the moment, but everybody played their part in this match. A really, really fun opener. Griz, I'm going to start with you. I thought it was a fun opener. I thought everybody delivered. I thought Bronson Reed is an absolute beast. What are your thoughts, my friend?
Well, for this match, this is it's quite interesting because I was not big on Bronson Reed when he first came in. Obviously now, since him coming in, definitely turned around on him, especially recently with the amount of great matches and spots he's been having. Kind of same goes with Legado del Fantasma as a faction. They were just kind of always there and didn't really do anything. Even while Santos was Cruiserweight champion, he didn't seem to do very much, but it just seems as if recently, all four of them have really stepped up to a different level. And I think with Santos now leaving the Cruiserweight division, I think that's going to give him a lot more to kind of do and finally maybe get just that wee bit more that he needs to get to the next proper level. And the combination of all them, obviously I love MSK, that's why I've not mentioned them. But the six of them together, they pulled off a hell of a start. The only one thing I want to mention, because you kind of skipped over it, was the bad lip syncing of that chick doing the theme song before the first match.
Yeah, I haven't got time to waste on talking about bad lip syncing, Griz. I'm a professional.
I do. That's probably why my podcasts are 4.5 hours.
Who was that? Does anyone know who she was?
Naomi
Some
Fox.
rapper, I think.
Naomi Fox, that's right.
Dude, because I Googled her and I couldn't find anything. It was like, there was nothing. So I was just like, was this fucking some TikTok shit? I had no idea. But yeah, that was
She was plucked out of the crowd 5 minutes before the show went on air.
Yeah.
She was lovely. She was lovely to look at. But
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The bad lip syncing definitely was noticeable. But any final thoughts from you, Griz, on that opener? You seem to enjoy it.
The kind of splash spot at the end was very well timed. The one thing that did creep me out, though, was just the way that Santos Escobar stared into the camera for very long, and it very much made me uneasy. Then he screamed at me. and then I guess Bronson backed me up there by splashing through the plexiglass, so I appreciated it.
That was a great moment.
Isaac, I'm going to throw it over to you. Give us your thoughts on that opener.
So I was really excited by it. I mean, one of the things that I did with this pay-per-view is I went in, I didn't know what the card was. I hadn't watched any NXT, so I didn't know anything going in. I had zero expectations other than it's an NXT Takeover, which means it's going to be a fun show, right? Yeah. Even in this match, I don't really know any of the guys. I know, was it Santos as King Cuerno from Lucha Underground? So I expect things from him because he was incredible on that show. And yeah, I mean, he delivered that driver. Like, I freaked out because like that's a huge man to be doing that too.
Oh, yeah.
So that
And
was
it
a
could
great
go
moment.
so horribly wrong as well, couldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was a bunch of moments, but they had that. Yeah, the splash through the plexiglass was great, and then they had that one where it was like the senton or whatever. Where he just landed like full on. Bronson did on the guy. And I was like, oh my god, it might have been the most painful looking thing I saw the whole fucking night, maybe with the exception of a ladder spot later. But like that was for a match to start off the pay-per-view. Like, goddamn, the energy, it kicked up the energy really quick. I was into it. It was a really fun match, man. I had a great time with that one.
Yeah. And out of curiosity, you mentioned that you don't kind of watch a lot of NXT, or do you? I mean, are you just about out of touch with that brand at the moment?
I watch the takeovers usually.
Right.
I don't watch a lot of the broadcast stuff just because there's just so little time.
Yeah,
and there's so much content to fucking try and catch up on. But I love the Takeover product. I think Takeover is one of, if not the best professional wrestling show that is broadcast. The NXT weekly shows that I've catch are usually good, but the takeovers are always on another level, and it's almost like everyone is just a little better than the last. So yeah, I was really into it, and I definitely left feeling like Bronson's a fucking star. And that if he ever gets to the main roster, Vince McMahon will turn him into a joke.
Well, I do fear that, I can, hopefully not a repeat of what they've done with Keith Lee, which was a complete mishandle. But one thing I want to touch on a bit later, guys, and just to kind of bear this in mind, is obviously WWE going back on the road in July. Maybe we'll see NXT step out of the Capital Wrestling Center, maybe back into Full Sail, because that was always a good atmosphere in Full Sail, and maybe for the takeovers back on the road into some of the arenas. But one should hope we'll talk about that a bit later on. But over to you, DDJ. Your thoughts on the big man Bronson Reed and how it all went down?
Definitely thought this was the perfect match to kick off the event. One thing that I really took away from this, and this is something I've been saying since the pandemic started, is that match was really good, but that crowd made it that much better. And this match, and it's if anything, this match exemplifies how important the crowd is to a show. Like the crowd adds so much to a show because the wrestlers are reacting to the fans. The fans are conveying the emotions. Like when everybody was doing those dives, then you could just feel the build up, and the crowd is really getting into it because they knew Bronson was going to do something. And when they did it, that place came unglued, and it was just so much fun, so much energy. Bronson Reed is clearly a star in the making. And this match does something that I think every good wrestling match does. The winners that win over, but in the end, everybody got over because nobody looked weak in that match. Santos came out looking like $1 million, and Isaac and I have talked about this, and I've talked about it with other people. Santos Escobar I was looking forward to the time when he would drop the cruiserweight title because I know that guy is destined for bigger and better things. Not only in NXT, but the WWE. And Santos Escobar, I think, and this is what I like to call a hot take, Santos Escobar is going to be that Mexican star that the WWE has been looking to replace Rey Mysterio once Rey Mysterio is done for good. All in all, fun opening match. Great way to kick off the show.
Interesting. I like your take on Santos Escobar being potentially, as good or as remembered as Rey Mysterio. I mean, obviously, WWE have a long kind of history of working with Latino wrestlers. We know the kind of history, and Isaac mentioned Lucha Underground earlier. But has he developed enough of a character to make it on an even bigger stage, such as a Raw, SmackDown, or WWE pay-per-views, or is he just got the character that's kind of set for more of an NXT, more of a smaller stage at the moment? Isaac, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I think his talent is there. I think the in-ring work is there. I think you get him in front of people, and he'll impress them. But yeah, it's I don't know if this is the right thing for him. I don't think there's anything unique about this gimmick. Like, I don't think there's anything that really sets it apart that makes it like, this is who it is. Like, his name is even forgettable, and they've changed it a few times, so like there's a piece missing there. And like it's maybe it is as simple as making him a luchador and like giving him a mask and a simpler name. But I think the potential is there, but they definitely need to do something other than this gimmick with him.
Yeah, definitely a character that's more suited to the black and gold brand at the moment. But let's move on to match number 2 then, guys. Mercedes Martinez versus Zia Lee. Now, before the match, we get a recap of Mercedes Martinez defeating Zia Lee in the Mae Young Classic 4 years ago. An excellent tournament, a very, very good match. But here, guys, they've really been putting a lot of effort and a lot of time into building the Zia Lee character on TV. And for what it was, I thought the match was okay. One of their matches that I was quite surprised was actually on the card to start off with. On paper, it looks more like a kickoff show match, if I'm honest with you. But they did a really, really good job. They put in a lot of effort. They worked their asses off. They took a lot of punishment. The match did end when Zia Lee hit a roundhouse kick, or a roundhouse spinning kick to Mercedes Martinez, getting the 1-2-3. But what's more interesting is what happened after the match. After the match, things got a little bit strange, with Martinez gaining control of a steel chair, taking out Zia Lee, taking out Boa. Before I think it's Tyan Shah confronted Martinez on the rampway before throwing Martinez off the rampway into the barrier ringside on the outside with a lot of force as well. She definitely took that bump very, very well. An impressive bump, almost certainly leading to the debut of this mysterious guru, whatever her name is. Is it Tyan Shah? I think it is.
Or something like that. I think Tyan Shah is in the group.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And the name of the individual...
Meeling or something?
Yeah.
Or something like that, I believe.
I knew I was going to butcher that, to be honest with you, and get it wrong. But an okay match, an interesting angle to end it with. Griz, I'm going to throw it back over to you again. Give us your take on what went down here, and is it kind of an interesting character development, or a character development that you're particularly interested in, that you're invested in, and where do you think they're going to go from here?
Well, to be honest, yeah, like I know it's some people think watch this and go, it's a bit goofy. Look at the weird ghost woman, and like she's 1,000 years old and all that. Her plan is like, just remember you are watching wrestling at the end of the day. So anyway, but the seriousness of the new Zia Lee has really like helped her. And Boa's still not really done anything like since he debuted, but him being part of this faction gives him something to do, even if it's just to get the hell knocked out of them with a steel chair and that kind of thing. At least it's given another character a role. And with Mei Ling, I guess we're just going to go with that just now.
I think you're right.
The fact that she's actually this is the first time she's actually attack somebody by doing something other than blowing smoke in their face. So it seems as if there's some form of progression happening here, but obviously all this I'd say is just it's a thumbs up just because Zia Lee is on a different level. She's not like just this cute little Chinese jobber woman anymore. She's a freaking badass. Yeah. So I'm all in as long as it's for her.
Yeah, and I actually became a fan of Zia Lee a couple of years back, and I don't know if you're aware of NXT. Every year they used to do like a combine, and they used to do various sporting events, athletic events, and feats of strength. And Zia Lee, she was there doing very, very well, but she was like a cheerleader for everybody else, and really, really, a spirited kind of part of that team. And I thought, yeah, she's a good egg. And a great athlete, and she's now proven herself in the ring, which is obviously what she also set out to do at the very beginning. But Isaac, I'm going to throw it over to you. Not so much about the match, but the storyline afterwards. For a casual viewer of NXT, is it something that's going to kind of intrigue you and maybe get you tuning in?
Well, first of all, before the match, I just got to say that she had a badass katana, man. She was swinging around that sword,
yeah,
and that got me in 100%. I don't know, man. There's something about just swinging swords around. That really hits home to the nerd in me. But yeah, no. It's a little my biggest thing with professional wrestling is sometimes it doesn't pick a lane, and like you try and present yourself as like a serious alternative, or whatever it might be. Like we're a wrestling show, and like we're really focused on trying to be like a wrestling promotion and do this, and then like you do one thing that's like so far removed from everything else you're promoting. It's jarring, it doesn't feel like it belongs. Like if you're watching like a John Wick movie, and then all of a sudden, like 3/4 of the way in, there's like a Carrot Top cameo doing, gag bits, and then you go back to the serious movie. Like it sort of detracts from the momentum of the pay-per-view for me. But as soon as she threw her into that wall and she dropped down between the ramp and the stage, I was, I forgot all about it, because that was a crazy bump, and it looked sketchy as hell. And I like that kind of stuff. So. But yeah, I mean, I liked Lucha Underground because like they did that shit all the time. But that was like the world. Yeah. That was the world they created, right? Like that was like the whole thing with the temple and all of that was like, this is a world where anything kind of mysterious and mystical can happen. So when things like that did happen, it didn't feel crazy. Whereas like NXT, like you're like, okay, the whole premise of this is like, these are the up and coming stars for the main roster. And then all of a sudden you have 1,000-year-old witch on the show. And it's like, wait a minute, what? But I'm intrigued.
I'm intrigued as well. DDJ, what about yourself? Give us your thoughts.
Well, Griz had a really good point he made when he talked about in the end, when he mentioned about, and if I get this wrong, I apologize, but he talked about in the end, we're watching professional wrestling. And, and I 100% agree with that. And I liked how he said it like it wasn't a bad thing, because it really wasn't. I mean, yeah, I like my realism, my wrestling, but I also like a little bit of the, the supernatural. I like the Lucha Underground aspects of, what we're seeing here, because this is very Lucha Underground-ish. I from the beginning of this, I've really enjoyed this whole storyline from the creation of, like when they went through the training with Boa and Zia Lee. I thought that was really intense and stuff. And just overall, I've loved what they've done with Zia Lee. And the thing I love most about this match, and you talked about it right at the beginning, John, was how they referenced 4 years ago in the Mae Young Classic. And that is one thing that I always mark out for, is in a professional wrestling match, when you're building a story, you're referencing something that happened in the past, like one match 4 years ago, because I didn't even think about it when, like, the whole thing when Martinez got the mark on her hand, I'm thinking, okay, this is weird. And then when I saw the they start talking about the man, like, okay, now it makes sense. So I really love that. In a show like Takeover, where every match was really good, you're always still going to have to say one was probably like my least favorite match of the night. And unfortunately, it was this match, but it wasn't due to, it's just because, again, every match was so freaking good on this show. But, I mean, great match. I really like what they're doing with Zia Lee. Mercedes Martinez was not made to look weak in this match, which was something I was kind of fearing going into this.
They beat the shit out of each other.
They did. They really did.
It was a hard-hitting match.
How Mercedes, like, after the match, when, she beat up Bo and Zia Lee with the chair, and then she goes to confront Mei Ling. She's like, I'm not scared. But then she got up to Mei Ling, and then, she hit that, what looks like almost like a Tongan death grip, on her. And then, Martinez fought it off. And then she got it again, and then just threw her off the side, into the plexiglass and stuff. It's like, holy crap. Yeah. And the one thing I like about this is that this showed here, you can be a badass and, stand your ground in something that's supposed to be like really powerful, and all that. And then, in the end, get your ass handed to you, but still not made look weak. And I wish whoever wrote that ending to Monday Night Raw a couple weeks ago with Shayna Baszler and Lily would have maybe, I hope whoever wrote that maybe paid attention to this and thinks down the line, that if he comes up with something like it gets this again, he'll look himself in the mirror and say, this is utter crap. And I don't know why I even thought of this. So overall, great match. Like I said, everybody again came out looking strong and stuff. And like Isaac said, definitely intrigued to see where they go with this.
Oh, 100%. And I was going to say, the NXT have always been very good at developing and building new characters. And they definitely seem to be doing that with Boa and Zia Lee and Mei Ying and the little faction they got going there. And they're investing in Martinez as well and putting her in storylines. And so I think everybody kind of came out of there in a bit of a win-win situation. We had a bit of a backstage segment next with Tommaso Ciampa and Thatcher, of course, sending out a challenge to the grizzled young veterans GYV. Looks like we've got a match set between those two teams on tonight, as a matter of fact, I suppose Tuesday. It's getting used to that day having NXT on a Tuesday and not on a Wednesday anymore, but it looks like that's going to be a Tornado Rules tag match. Yep. That's going to be pretty good. And I wouldn't be surprised if the winner of that match comes out as the new number one contender to MSK's championship. But let's move on to what I thought was certainly the match I was most looking forward to going into last night. Cameron Grimes versus LA Knight, the ladder match for the $1 Million Championship. And by the way, correction, it is only Monday night over here in the UK. Time moves so quick when you're putting out so many episodes of this podcast. But tomorrow night is that big Tornadoes championship match, Tornado Rules match. But Cameron Grimes, LA Knight, a ladder match with the $1 Million Championship hanging high above. Before we talk about the match, I'm going to kind of go to you one at a time. Griz, first of all, two excellent wrestlers, two great characters, two fantastic performers. You throw in a bit of Ted DiBiase in there, a bit of $1 Million Man, and a ladder match with a championship bout hanging high above. A recipe for a fantastically entertaining match. But what were your thoughts going into this one then, my friend Griz?
There's nothing about any of this that I hate.
Good.
Ladder match, Ted DiBiase, Grimes, LA Knight, and the $1 Million Championship. Just keep throwing everything that I ever enjoyed about pro wrestling and stick it in one match.
Because, I mean, you look at LA Knight, Cameron Grimes, they've really fleshed out these characters. Great talkers behind the microphone, fantastic performers in the ring. They've really got these fleshed out characters. Even from day one, LA Knight was giving us these Rock-esque promos. He looks fantastic. Cameron Grimes, I've been a fan of his since his Trevor Lee days and when he first came into NXT, probably a good couple of years ago now. This was a great match. Lots of high spots, lots of action with the ladders, lots of quite risky spots as well. Certainly, there was one spot where LA Knight hit Grimes with a neck breaker across like an upturned ladder in the ring. That looked like it sucked. Lots of back and forth in this one, and I think the end of the match came when LA Knight tipped Cameron Grimes off of a ladder in the ring, sending him outside through like a ladder that was set up as a bridge. LA Knight eventually climbed up, grabbed the briefcase, and was presented with the $1 Million belt from the $1 Million Man himself. So this was a highly, highly, highly entertaining match. Didn't skip a beat from the minute it started through to the end. Isaac, I'm going to start with you. I'll come back to you, Griz, on your thoughts on the match. But give us your thoughts on this match. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Possibly up to this point, my match of the night, and a very, very close second to the main event. But give us your thoughts, my friend.
Yeah, I think thinking back on it, this is the match of the night for me. My biggest issue with that is something so stupid. Is just that I hate the name LA Knight. I hate it. It's a garbage name. It really sounds like a B-League hockey team in fucking Los Angeles. and every time I hear it, I'm just like, why? Like Eli Drake was a great name. Like there's got to be something better than LA Knight. But other than that, like Grimes, I think, like he's been put in a lot of situations where he's been forced to do like a lot of goofy shit. And I think this was a real chance for him to just show how good he is in a very serious confrontation. And they both showed up. There were some gnarly bumps, and that ladder bump fucking Grimes took at the end was incredible. It was incredible. It was such a great moment. What a great way to end it. And again, both of those guys came out I mean, it's cliche, but they both came out looking like $1 million. They looked so good. It was an incredible match. The build to it for me, like even just watching the promo package, I'm invested because it's the $1 million title. Like, of course you want the $1 million title. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was definitely an incredible match, and
I could happily go back and watch this match a couple of times over and not get bored, and probably pick out new things I didn't see first time round. It was that entertaining and so much packed into probably maybe a 15-20 minute match, but they really
it wasn't
did deliver.
Crazy long.
No, it certainly wasn't. But you wouldn't have wanted it to have been any longer either. I think it was perfectly paced, perfectly timed, and perfectly executed. But
there was nothing extra. There was nothing that felt like forced. There wasn't a point where I was like, this should have ended already, and like we're still doing like. It just was. It felt like the perfect match.
And you probably had the master of ladder matches, Mr. Michaels, behind the scenes, helping to put the match together as well. I should imagine. So I'm sure that he definitely had a big hand in producing that one. But DDJ, hell of a ladder match. And you think about the last ladder match we saw in an NXT Takeover, and it was for the Cruiserweight Championship, wasn't it? Over WrestleMania weekend, Stand and Deliver, Jordan Devlin, Santos Escobar. That match didn't quite click in all the right places for me. Last night's match, LA Knight versus Cameron Grimes, it did in all the right places. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But what about yourself, Dennis?
I think you hit it out of the park with that assessment right there. I remember going back with to Stand and Deliver, and I think that ladder match between Santos Escobar and Jordan Devlin was like the match I was most excited about. And like you said, it did not click for some reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes these things happen. We have these matches that, that a lot of us say, this is the match I'm most looking forward to. And sometimes it unfortunately just doesn't work. This time, though, this is one of those occasions where this was the match that I was most looking forward to. The match lived up to the hype that I think it was given, my own personal hype. And I'm going to double down with what Isaac said. It was actually my pick for match of the night as well, too. I really enjoyed this match. I'm a huge fan of both guys. I've been a Trevor Lee fan for the longest time since his days in Impact Wrestling, because he was just somebody that had a real unique look, and the style he wrestled was, like, we're all guilty of judging a book by their cover. And the one thing that is, I've always been just why I've been such a huge Trevor Lee, Cameron Grimes, and Isaac knows how big a Cameron Grimes fan I am, is because Trevor Lee, the way he wrestles is completely different than how I think most of us would have never heard of him would look at him and say, oh, he's a brawler, he's just a ground and pound guy. But this guy can fly, and that's one of the reasons why I've always liked him so much. And I was lucky enough to actually get to meet him at, I believe what turned out to be one of the, if not his very last show before he signed with NXT, and he was a really cool guy. But going back, fast forwarding to the match, great match, like I said, both guys are great. Like Isaac also said, I hate the LA Knight name. I always think of like a pair of shoes or something like that when I hear LA Knight.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love the match. All the spots worked. You can definitely tell Shawn Michaels' fingerprints were all over this match, and that is a great thing. And going into the end of the match, that bump that he took through the ladder, that was on the ramp and stuff, it was just, it felt so bad. And then you mentioned the neck breaker earlier. You saw a lot of those moves where, like, you literally could feel them watching at home, and it was a great match. Obviously the whole $1 million title thing really kind of brings a unique, storyline into this and stuff. And I love the fact that they went with LA Knight in this match, because I think he is, the more I think about it, I think he's tailor-made for this role. He's the cocky heel, who's living the $1 million lifestyle. And now that he's got the endorsement of the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase, plus the $1 million championship, that just gives him more fuel for the fire. Like, this guy, we all know he can talk up a storm, but now he's got so much more to talk about. He's going to be that much more unbearable. And it also it puts Cameron Grimes in that babyface role, who's going to be chasing the $1 million championship, because he feels he needs it. And I just, like I said, you always love a good babyface chase for chasing a heel, especially when the title's involved. And that so it makes us to see where this goes. once again, I'll say, like I said before, this was my pick for match of the night. And yeah, like I said, I may go actually, as soon as we're done with this, I may go back and watch the match again.
Yeah, and Griz, over to you. I mean, they really do seem to be building Cameron Grimes as the next big babyface, and you've seen this development. And one kind of giveaway, and one thing that made me pop was the yes kicks. Very kind of babyface vibes there, with him using a typical babyface Daniel Bryan move so many times last night. But I hear rumours that they do have big and high hopes for Cameron Grimes, not just in NXT, but maybe on the main roster as a big babyface. His character and his ability, he's definitely one they're investing in. But what about yourself? Give us your thoughts on the match, and where do we go next in this feud for the $1 million title?
Well, first off, I would have said, like, say if all four of us are sitting watching it together when LA Knight, I don't mean the name, by the way, pulled the belt off the hook. I audibly let out, son of a bitch, just because I really wanted Grimy to win. Yeah. But sitting here, like, obviously kind of listening to all you talk about it, no, I would kind of agree that probably LA Knight winning was the better decision, and now the chase is on.
Oh yeah,
for Grimy to, no pun intended, climb up the ladder to maybe take the belt from Drake eventually. The one thing I'll say again is about the final spot when he landed on the ladder. I was expecting the old-fashioned wooden ladder. So when he bounced off that thing and it made that big clangy metal noise, it's like, oh, well, you're going to see your psychiatrist in the morning.
Yeah, 100%. And are you kind of into the Cameron Grimes character? Do you think he's got a big future with the WWE brand as a whole?
I loved him before, but then he came back with the whole new money gimmick, and that just made me love him even more.
Wow, that's awesome.
I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah. But can't wait to see what those two have in store this Tuesday and future NXT shows, I'm sure. Let's talk about the semi-final match then. Raquel Gonzalez, Ember Moon for the NXT Women's Championship. Of course, Ember Moon is a former NXT Women's Champion. We'll know that. Now, it's been an incredibly impressive year, 2021, for Raquel Gonzalez. I'm sure we'll all agree. But in this match, she just seemed to kind of bring out some extra moves and show a different level or different layers to her moveset, the Canadian backbreaker, the twisting Vader bomb. And for kind of a big, tough wrestler, she seems to be pulling out some agility moves, shall I say. But this was a great match. Very, very good championship match, I felt. Even Moon was showing some innovation with a code red and a variation of an STF before nailing a dive through the ropes, sending the champion crashing backwards over the announce desk. Moon did make one final comeback, which included an eclipse that very nearly won the match. However, it wasn't to be, as Dakota Kai draped Raquel Gonzalez's foot over the bottom rope. The referee didn't see it, but stopped the count. That called out Griz's favourite, Shotzi Blackheart, to fight Dakota Kai to the back. And then the match continued. Moon did have one final attack with a tornado DDT on the rampway, but then Gonzalez came back and she did hit her single arm. She hit a snake eyes first of all, then a single arm power bomb for the successful title defense. So I'm sure you'll all agree, guys, that they're doing a great job with Raquel Gonzalez. Another impressive outing for Gonzalez. A really, really good challenge to her throne from Ember Moon, and great to see her back in the title chase in NXT, which is where she belonged from day one. But Isaac, I'm going to throw it over to you again, my friend. Quite an impressive championship defense by Raquel Gonzalez. They seem to be kind of putting a lot of faith in this relatively new wrestler that's only been around for a few years, and she seems to be delivering the goods, my friend.
She looked great. Yeah, I think that match did really well for her. I think my two biggest issues is I wish that they had given us a little bit more time in between this match and the end of that ladder match, because my intensity and energy level from that ladder match was way up here, and then like it's just hard to get. I was like, it was hard for me to like focus on it because I was like still like, holy shit, he just like bounced off that ladder and landed on the stage, and like that was still going on. So it was a little hard for me to get into. There was a point where I got a little distracted in the match, but like when Gonzalez pulls out her power moves, like she looks devastating. Ember Moon for me has never really clicked. I've always found her to be like a really good wrestler, but I never have seen her as like one of the best in NXT in the women's. I think that like she's good, she has her moments, but I've always noticed that she doesn't connect on a lot of stuff, and it always like takes me out of it. Like she just even her finisher where she does like the stunner thing, it just never looks quite. It just never looked quite right to me, and yeah, for me this was probably the weakest of everything tonight for me, in my opinion. And not to say that it was bad, but I have to go and rewatch it tonight or tomorrow because I want to give it a fair shake with like fresh energy and to see what I think. But yeah, watching it live, like I feel like if there had been like something shorter in between those two, it would have boosted me up enough to really get into it. But that finisher, that choke slam that she does is fucking awesome. It looks so good.
It is so awesome. And DDJ, give us your thoughts on this one.
This match had the unenviable task of following that ladder match, and you always you feel for the performers that always have to follow, like when they have to follow a match that was as great as that ladder match was, and just unfortunately this match suffered the same fate. It just seemed like the crowd kind of maybe needed this match. They took this match to kind of rest up for the main event and stuff. But yeah, both women went out and gave a heck of a performance. Ember Moon actually got a lot more offense in than I had thought she would. But I mean, that's good because again, then she doesn't walk away looking weak, which is you ultimately don't want that to happen. And stuff. I love this pairing with Raquel and Dakota. Dakota is such a good, ally to Raquel. She's basically the Shawn Michaels to Raquel's Diesel, so to speak. I think because that's what I compare them to. And it's great to see, Griz's favorite Shotzi return after being out for a few weeks due to injury and stuff.
What
and taking Dakota out of this match. But one of the things I liked about that happening is that it made Raquel's win even that much more legit. Like she did not need Dakota's help to win. She ended up proving that she did not need Dakota's help to win that match. She won that match straight up. There was no shenanigans, no outside interference, or no tomfoolery or anything. She literally outpowered Ember and hit that move, which I believe she started calling, and I'm going to try to say this as properly as possible because I don't want to come off as offensive or anything, but I think it was the Chingon bomb or something like that, I believe is what it's being referred to as.
I think they did mention the name, but I can't remember what.
Yeah, but I mean,
Chingon.
Yeah, it was the right call, and I mean,
that's funny.
Clearly, Raquel continues her dominance atop the NXT Women's Division, and she's getting to the point, and it's just one of the reasons why I love NXT so much is that they are building her properly. Like they are doing the best they possibly can with her because they are making her look like a legitimate badass who is unbeatable. And really, right now, there isn't anyone on that NXT Women's roster that I honestly think you could go out and say like tomorrow night could show up and look like a credible challenger to Raquel. I don't think there's anybody out there right now, and that's really good for the Raquel Gonzalez character. All in all, good match. Just had that unenviable, unfortunate task of having to follow up that ladder match.
Yeah, and Griz, I mean, just following on from what DDJ was saying there, talking about future challengers and possible contenders to the title. Shotzi Blackheart, she was kind of there, involved in the match. It looks like they could be lining Shotzi up as a future contender for Gonzalez's championship. Give us your thoughts briefly on the match, and if you think that Shotzi, could have a chance and maybe take the title.
Yeah, well, Fingers crossed on that one. But well, considering it was Raquel specifically that injured Shotzi to begin with, it kind of writes itself when Shotzi being the next challenger. But to go kind of with something that Isaac said of just Ember Moon not clicking, like I kind of agree to a point, but I feel like it's more so this new gimmick she's running just isn't doing much for me. The weird Mad Max thing. It's not as good as her old kind of werewolfy vampire gimmick that she used to do, and I feel like that just takes something away from her. But other than that, like I think she was a good, credible challenger, but the feud did just kind of come out of nowhere with the whole, oh, you attacked my friend, now I want your belt. And it's like, okay. Cool. But, yeah, well, I'm thinking Shotzi, next challenger. I mean, I don't think she's going to win, not at this point, but, I mean, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see. I mean, DDJ said about the Shawn Michaels Diesel connection there. Obviously, with Raquel and Dakota, there's going to be a split between those two. It's got to be kind of a big payoff in that partnership somewhere down the line. But it looks like they could be lining Shotzi up as the next contender at the Great American Bash. So that's going to be kind of the next big, not necessarily a takeover. I think it's taking place on a Tuesday night on a regular NXT, but for them 2 hours on the 6th of July. It will be the Great American Bash coming back to NXT. So there's some takeover quality matches will be lined up for that show, I'm sure. But gentlemen, let's talk about the main event, because it was pretty epic, and it was certainly the match I was looking forward to going into last night. Pete Dunne versus Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, and Johnny Gargano all taking on Karrion Kross in a fatal 5-way for the championship, of course. And my only kind of thoughts going into this was, too many moving parts, too many guys involved. It could get a bit messy. I actually thought the match was pretty well booked, pretty well paced, and went about 30 minutes. So it was a decent length of a match. Everybody got their time to shine and got their shit in. There was a couple of opportunities where that they actually put Karrion Kross out of the picture, where they dumped him through the In Your House set, or they double power bombed him not through, but onto the announce table. And moments like that. Pete Dunne at the very end came the closest, I think, when he hit the bitter end on Karrion Kross, and then he managed to do the finger snap, the joint manipulation. And I thought if they was going to get close to swapping the title and putting it on a new champion, that was the moment. But in the end, O'Reilly came off with a big knee off the top rope onto Karrion Kross. But I think was it O'Reilly had Adam Cole in like a heel hook or an ankle lock, and then Kross made a recovery, put O'Reilly in the cross jacket, and the referee kind of saw all he needed to see and called for the bell. So it was a good match. I thought there was a lot of really cool offense. I thought Johnny Gargano was fantastic. Adam Cole was great, of course. Pete Dunne, my personal favorite going into the match. I really hope that he gets another opportunity, a one-on-one match against Karrion Kross. I think that'd be a fantastic match. He really stood up to Kross towards the end of that one. But I'm going to start with you, Dennis. DDJ, give us your thoughts on this main event. I thought it was pretty epic, and I think it lived up to expectations. Give us your thoughts.
The one thing I always love about a good multi-man match is that every single person has like their time in the match where everybody looks strong. And that was the one thing about that. Every single person in this match had a period where they looked strong in this match. And it was great. Much like you said, could have been a case of too many moving parts, but phenomenal match. Like I said, it easily could have been my match tonight, but I love that ladder match that much. But this match all in all, like I said, I love the fact that everybody looks strong. There was a point in the match where every single person in that match looked like they were gonna win the championship. You go into this match, the match was created basically with Karrion Kross saying, you know what, just give them all to me. He wanted them all. And I mean, that's his character. And that ending that you talked about with, O'Reilly having Cole in the heel hook, and then Kross just kind of like he looked like he was out, but then it's just like, and I'm thinking this in the back of my mind, it's like he's gonna do something, and then he basically just, you know, almost in a not quite Undertaker-esque, but in that kind of style, you know, he basically rose up and to just put that move, I think he called it the cross jacket or whatever on O'Reilly, and then just basically ended up choking him out. And I loved O'Reilly's the visuals of his face, because I looked at it and I'm thinking, oh yeah, he's done, you know, that's it. And the ref came in, you know, kind of shook him, tried to get him up, and he let the arm drop once, and that was all he needed to see. He said that's it, you know, bell rang, you know, it went over. I also, you know, and Kross went over, which I think he should have. One of the things that really also speaks to just how strongly Kross is being booked is that there were multiple points in the match where you saw 2-on-1s on Kross, 3-on-1s, 4-on-1s. Like, they all worked together to take Kross out because they all saw him as the biggest threat. They figured they get him out of the way, it makes their chances that much easier. And that's what I really love and appreciate about the Kross character and stuff. So, but, you know, I definitely think that we're going to see more of Kross versus O'Reilly, which I am all on board with. And that because O'Reilly's not going to take being choked out by Kross very lightly. He will be back.
Yeah, 100%. So I enjoyed the hell out of the match. I thought it was better than I was expecting going into it. But Griz, over to you. Give us your thoughts on the main event from last night, buddy.
Yeah, I thought like probably the first half was a bit clunky, just in the kind of way that, as you kind of says, there was too many moving parts. But when things started to breaking up, and then there was you know, big moves hit, people taken out for a while, and sort of covered in fur. When there's when people started getting taken out, and then there's people coming in breaking up pins that haven't been seen for a while, that's when it started to get really exciting, because it definitely the second half of the match sort of picked up, and
sure.
To be honest, just the ending, like the way that instead of Karrion Kross just breaking up the submission, his logic was, I'll just slap on my own. And it's like Adam Cole's there just about to tap out. And so Karrion's cranking that submission, like, come on, go to sleep quickly.
He sold that. Riley sold that, man.
Yep.
He sold that sleeper so well. It looked so gnarly.
Just kind of as DDJ said, just the way that you just seen the eyes rolling in the back of Kyle O'Reilly's face, and it was like, man, even just good like visual selling, just like that, just get it with all.
Yeah, it looked great. It looked so good. It was very convincing.
And then just the kind of way that, like, as you seen, like Cole was still like, he was still kind of scrambling, like ow, and then he just kind of was like, wait, he's let go of that hold.
Yeah, I did fear that they were going to do some weird finish where Adam Cole was going to tap as O'Reilly had passed out, and there was some like double finish. I don't know, but they didn't do that. They took the sensible route out and just had a decisive winner. But Isaac, give us your thoughts on the main event, my friend.
I think I was nervous, like you were saying about the number of people in it. Even fatal three-ways, three-way dances can be hectic. Yeah. And I think there was some of that. I think my biggest issues was when everyone was in the ring. There was a lot of like super kicking to the head that went on. And like there was definitely a section where it was like a few minutes of that where they were just going around kicking each other in the head a whole bunch, and nobody sold it. And it was just like they were just trying to like all do something together. And then they went and power bombed him on the table, and he sold the hell out of that. And I'm like, dude, you just got kicked in the head like 8 times in a row, and it's the power bomb on the table that's the one that takes you out. But the moment of that match for me was when Pete Dunne did the moonsault off the top rope and got the super kick. Oh my God, it looked so gnarly. It looked so good. That was great. And the ending, I thought it was going to be fucky. I thought they were going to pull some shit with a double submission. Submission, and they didn't. I mean, the whole setup for the match, the idea of Karrion Kross going in, doing this because he's like, I don't give a shit. I'm that tough. I'll take you all on. It was a great story, and they sold it, and they did it. They did it as well as you can with 5 guys in the ring. And honestly, they picked 5 of the best guys you could pick for that kind of thing. And it was a little hectic at points, but in the end, once it really started hitting the match points, it picked up, and it was exciting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to throw it back over to you, Isaac, because they had a perfect opportunity to switch the title last night, because it wouldn't necessarily had to have been Karrion Kross to have been pinned or submitted to have lost the title. But he won the match against 4 of the toughest opponents in NXT. Who is there on the roster at the moment that could potentially be a credible challenger after he's just defeated 4 of the best on the black and gold brand? Can you see any of those 4 possibly being being placed or positioned as a credible challenger in the future, or is there somebody that wasn't involved in that match that might be that challenger somewhere down the line? Walter,
100% Walter.
That would be an awesome match.
It would,
sure.
Yeah. I mean, Walter is just one of those guys that he's just such a beast anyway that, I think him and Karrion Kross together, size-wise, style-wise, it would be a great match. And, if you're bringing Karrion up to the main roster, who better to come in after that?
Yeah, no, really good choice. I hadn't considered Walter, but mainly because he's a champion of the UK brand at the moment. But yeah, if we give him all the gold or let him lose the UK title first. But DDJ, I mean, what's your response to that question? Who do you realistically see being a credible challenger to Karrion?
I'm going to stick with what I mentioned earlier, how I said I don't think it's over with Kyle O'Reilly and Karrion. I think, if you go back to the press conference that they did for In Your House on Saturday, one of the questions was to Karrion Kross, and he asked, out of the 4 guys there in that match, who did you see as your biggest threat? And point blank, Kross said Kyle O'Reilly. And I think that because Kyle O'Reilly has really kind of come into his own this last year, and he's really taken that next step to get to where he is now a consistent main event caliber athlete. And I said this last year on a podcast that I used to be a part of. I think I said to Isaac about this. I said, provided he does not get called up to the main roster at some point this year, Kyle O'Reilly will be the NXT champion, and I would not be surprised one bit if he is the one that dethrones Karrion Kross for that title.
Very interesting. Very interesting. My own personal beliefs, I'd love Pete Dunne to kind of take that next step and be the champion. Good. I'd really, really like that. And you could see how he was staring into the ring, sitting on the outside. He kind of, he had fire in his eyes, and he'd make a fantastic NXT champion. I think they're building him up to that position, but not quite yet. Griz, for yourself, who would you like to see take the belt off of Karrion Kross?
Nobody, because Karrion Kross is the best.
Well, there is that. He could.
I'm totally shocked by what he just said, based off what shirt he's wearing. That totally caught me off guard.
I didn't catch that. You were in a Kross t-shirt.
Yes.
There you go. But guys, we've spoken about all the matches. We've spoken about all the highs and all the lows and all the happenings. But let's talk about what happened at the very end, because something that caught us off guard was just as that little trademark symbol was appearing on the bottom corner, and they kind of split away from what was happening in the ring when Kross and Charlotte were celebrating. You had Mackenzie, the interviewer, coming up to William Regal saying, give us your thoughts on the show. And he said, after 7 years of being the GM of NXT, he said it's time for a change. So it looks like William Regal is taking a bit of a back step, or maybe leaving NXT in his kind of on-screen persona as the general manager. Certainly unexpected, and certainly got a lot of people talking on the internet. Isaac, a bit of a sad day. You even saw a bit of emotion from the usually emotionless William Regal. We seem to have a bit of a tear in his eye there.
Tears in his eye, man.
Unbelievable. But did it shock you?
Yeah, he's done He's done so well. It was very shocking. I was not expecting that. And I will give credit to my co-host Dozer, who immediately after said this looks like it's a setup to get Samoa Joe in to be the new GM. And Uncle Dave is reporting today that might be the plan. So I think that if you're gonna shake up the GM role, you're gonna take someone like Regal out. Samoa Joe is as good a person as any, but goddamn, William Regal is one of the best people that you could have in that spot. Period. He was an incredible GM on Raw. Any role he's ever been in, he's excelled in, and credit where credit's due, man. He only elevated all of the people. He never made anything about him. He just made anyone that he worked with in NXT feel more prestigious. And if that's the end of William Regal in NXT, then it has been one hell of a run for him as the GM.
Yeah, but he'll have to come back once a year for when he has to announce War Games, because only William Regal can announce War Games the way he does. And I'm not going to imitate it, but War Games.
War Games!
DDJ, a bit of a shocking end to the show last night.
Yeah, it definitely caught me off guard, and I kind of found myself saying, as this was going on in the back of my mind, it's that Weezer song, "Say It Ain't So." If there was ever a Mount Rushmore of underrated wrestlers ever created, William Regal's face should be front and center on that, because he is criminally underrated. And I'm not talking about just from his time as NXT GM. I'm talking about when he wrestled in the WWE.
His whole career. His whole career,
WCW, the Lord Steven Regal character, just amazing talent. And I mean, much like, what Isaac said about, his co-host and my very good friend Dozer, about the, whole thing about Samoa Joe possibly being, cast in the role to replace it. I think it's great, because Samoa Joe's definitely one of those guys that ain't going to take shit from anybody. And the way it sounds like, the way the company's going, with all the out of control, everything like that, you need someone like Samoa Joe to kind of come in and be that law and order that's needed and such. So, and obviously, we still don't know if Joe will ever be able to wrestle again, but I think a role like this would be right up his alley and that. So, but I mean, there's a part of me that hopes that somehow, some way, Regal is still involved, on screen, because he's such an amazing character, and but if he's not, as long as he's still part of the brand, because much like Shawn Michaels, much like Triple H, much like the Road Dogg, these guys like these here provide so much experience and just can be so much help to these, the talent that's looking to make their way up to the, Raw or SmackDown and stuff like that. And I hope that this isn't the end of William Regal in NXT period. Maybe he's taking a break or whatever, but regardless, you know what? I'll take a moment to say thank you, William Regal, for everything.
Yeah, as an on-screen character, William Regal's always been golden. But Griz, give us your thoughts on how the show ended last night, and any improvements on Samoa Joe. Who else do you think could be the replacement potentially?
Well, yeah, definitely it definitely came out of the blue. But as soon as he said that, it's like, I mean, he's kind of right. There's been fights going on, Lord knows how many times. Even just there was at least 2 or 3 fights he had to break up just during the show. Yeah. With at the beginning of the show, there was Kyle O'Reilly and Johnny Gargano fighting in the car park. Then during the show, Karrion Kross and Pete Dunne were trying to go at it. And then just before the main event, you seen Regal trying to break up Shotzi and Dakota and Raquel. So, and then that's just on this pay-per-view. Never mind the past few weeks where everything has just been going completely all over the place. I have been hearing the rumors about Samoa Joe as well, and I think it's a good idea. But I would love for maybe it to be a kind of thing of Samoa Joe will come in as full-time GM for a bit, and then give Regal some time off, time to recuperate, get his head back around things, then maybe come back as a co-GM, and the two of them kind of just work together on things, and then that way, you're still going to get your War Games every year.
Maybe you could see something like, Regal stay on as GM, but like maybe Samoa Joe be like his enforcer or something like that.
Yeah, like Regal maybe does it remotely or something for a little bit. He just needs to be away from that CWC for a bit, because you can tell just how stressful the job has been, and they've been doing a good job, even if it has just been a storyline, like, of showing how like out of control the whole brand has become, just with everybody just picking fights and doing their own thing and going against authority.
Yeah.
Even down to the minor people like Leon Ruff sort of doing stuff like that.
Yeah. But guys, a better show than I was expecting. Like I say, on paper, it didn't look like a very strong card. Apart from one or two matches, it did stand out, but looked like there was too many moving parts. So kind of thinking, well, they've really got to work their asses off and kind of have this well booked and well agented. And they did. I certainly felt that the ladder match, I think we'll all agree, was definitely up there. The main event delivered.
Incredible.
And I think everybody worked their asses off. I'm going to kind of take it back to the opener as well. I thought the opener was fantastic. And Bronson Reed, definitely a star for the future, if he isn't already. But guys, we're drawing an end to this 191st episode of Wrestling with Johners, special NXT Takeover in Your House edition. I'm going to throw it over to you one at a time. Start with you, Griz. All of your socials. So where can we find you on social media? Where can we reach out, say hi, find out more about the Griz, find out more about Turning Heel podcast? Go ahead, my friend.
Well, you can find us on Facebook at Turning Heel Podcast. You can find myself, on Twitter as Juggalo Griz. And as always, Turning Heel on the beautiful Johners Network.
That's right. Well done. Yes, 5 is in the post. The check is in the mail, as they say. But Isaac, like I say, awesome to have you on the show for the first time. And
yeah, man, this is a blast.
It will be one of many, my friend. It will be one of many. So thank you very much.
We'll get you on SGS too.
It's got to happen. But the same as Griz, throw all of your social medias our way. So
first and foremost,
you and your friends.
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me, allowing me to represent Such Good Shoot, and allowing us to be part of the Wrestling with Johners podcast network, which is where you can find all our stuff. You can also check us out on Patreon, Such Good Shoot, suchgoodshoot.com. We're all on Twitter, SGS Dozer, SGS Isaac, and then I believe it's SGS Shane. Not sure. And then also my crazy roommate Trent Richards. He's a SGS correspondent. He's on TikTok at Trent Wild Thing Richards. So that's what we got going on there, man. And every Thursday night, 10:05, we go live. So.
There we go. I'm sure you're going to have a Griz watching along to see you guys again for sure. And DDJ.
Literally just following Such Good Shit.
Hell
there we go. It's got to be done. And DDJ, same for you, my friend. Where can we say hi to you, reach out and find out more about your show?
Well, so since Griz has got his phone out, I'm going to tell him right now. You can find me every Monday at What Do You Say with DDJ. There's a question mark after say. And it's WHADDYA. I have a new podcast. I have a new episode drops every Monday and stuff. So that's like my main thing. Again, thanks, John, for having me on the show. Thanks for having me as part of the Johners Podcasting Network. It's been a blast. You can find me on Facebook at Dennis Day Jr. You can find me on Twitter at Dennis WDayJR. You can follow my show on Facebook at What Do You Say with DDJ. And then you can follow it on my show on Twitter. Although I don't do my show's Twitter that much. I don't update it as much as I should, but it's at What Do You Say DDJ. I make sporadic appearances on Such Good Shoot. And that, in fact, I think I'm going to be on this week because we're going to also be doing a Takeover in Your House review. I believe that is the plan. So if that's the case, I definitely most likely will be on for that. But
we haven't decided to not allow you yet. So.
Oh, geez, thanks.
I've already had my quote of you this week.
But no, I mean, it's just you can also obviously go to wrestlingwithjohners.com. You can find where you can get all things What Do You Say with DDJ, including links to all episodes on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. There's links to the show's Facebook and Twitter page, as well as my store on Teespring. But you can also go to teespring.com/stores/whatdoya-say-with-DDJ, where you can get all your official What Do You Say with DDJ merch. I've got shirts, I've got I've got cell phone cases for iPhone and Samsung. I got pint glasses, mask.
The man's on a roll. The man's on a roll.
He sells everything, man. We got DDJ snake oil.
DDJ
That's coming soon.
Beard balm.
Yeah.
Coming to a store near you soon.
Yeah,
guys,
extra large DDJ condoms.
It's been an absolute blast speaking to the three of you. Like I say, I think all in all, I think we'll agree that it was a very, very good show last night, and an excellent podcast to cover it right now. For myself, I'd say 191st episode, but check out the interview I did last night with Steve Aaron of Chicago fame, Chicagoland Championship Wrestling commentator, Chicago Style Wrestling general manager, all-round good guy, and a fantastic interview with Steve. Check that out, 190 in the archive. Go to wrestlingwithjonas.com for that and all the other episodes. And we're on the road to 200 episodes, guys. We're not too far, a couple of months down the road, and we'll be there, episode 200. But from myself, from Griz, from Isaac, from DDJ, thank you to everybody at home watching and listening to Wrestling with Jonas, and we'll catch up with you all again soon.